What If finished premiering this morning on Disney Plus. It was the fourth MCU show to premiere on Disney Plus. So in this video, I just want to go over my thoughts on all four of them. We already do have a video on the channel where we go over the first three. So I'm not going to discuss the first three as in depth. I will discuss them and give my thoughts on them, but I'm going to go very in depth on What Ifs. But this will contain spoilers for What If. So if you haven't seen it yet, especially the finale, I recommend you go check that out. Then come back because it will definitely probably spoil it for you. So before I get into that though, make sure to like, subscribe, follow DM Reviews on Twitter. Link should be in the description. We actually put a poll on there on which one you guys like the most, and so I'm going to discuss that probably before I give my own personal rankings, which I guess I'll do at the end of the video. So I'll probably talk about what you guys said, if I agree, disagree, that stuff. And also make sure to check out Demerit Commissions in the Discord server below for great thumbnails, profile pictures, phone backgrounds, and so much more. So I'm just going to kind of give my thoughts on each show individually, but then I'll do my rankings. So I think I'm just going to go in release order. So first that would be Wandavision. So Wandavision was the first to release, released by now some time ago, and I really liked Wandavision. I thought it was so good, and I think the thing that was best about it, well, there are two things that I think made it so special. One, it was so unique. A lot of Marvel movies and shows just feel so cookie cutter. There's a basic formula Marvel has. They tell their directors and the writers don't stray too far from it, and that's what we get. We get whatever Marvel decides that they want to do. WandaVision just felt so unique, and then this kind of builds into the second thing that I really liked was the first 2-3 episodes are nothing. They're literally just a sitcom episode, except WandaVision are there, but they're barely even using their powers. It's in black and white, and I love those episodes. I know that we talked about this in the last one. The person I did it with, he did not really like them because he felt they're a bit slow and useless almost, and I understand that, but I think that looking back at it, they're kind of beautiful. Where the show was about Wanda's grief and her grief towards Vision, and these just show how much she misses him. She created this entire world just to live with him, and it's important that we see what this world looks like for her before we eventually see it taken away from her. So I think these episodes really made the show all the more heartbreaking, because I think the show really is supposed to be heartbreaking. It really seems like she's going to be the villain of Doctor Strange 2. So I think these episodes help make the show feel heartbreaking, because hopefully they will make her a much more sympathetic villain if she does eventually become the villain of a future MCU movie. My bet is on Doctor Strange 2, but I could see it definitely, maybe not. I could see them maybe seeing that as a risk, because Marvel does not seem to really enjoy risks that much, so I guess I could see them avoiding that, but I think that they're really leading into that, so I'm going to guess that they will. So, yeah, the show is great acting. Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany are really good in the show. The writing is great. My main problem is really the finale. It's really bad. It devolved into everything I wished I was excited that it wasn't. Like a CGI battle. There was weird CGI stuff in the sky. It was just the normal stuff again. And I feel like we've seen it a million times. So it just felt so cookie cutter and basic. So that really bothered me. Where with Loki, I'll get into Loki's finale, which I also wasn't a huge fan of. That one stayed true to its show. Loki is also unique, and the finale also felt unique. It felt true to the show it was. Where WandaVision kind of just felt like it reverted back to everything else that we missed or maybe we've gotten a bit sick of and tired of. So that really bothered me. So WandaVision is great. It'll be pretty high in my rankings. Yeah, those are my really problems with it. So now moving on to Falcon the Winter Soldier, which was the second. As you can see on the screen, it started in March 19th, I believe. Well, actually, wait, no, that might have been the old release date. I don't remember, but Falcon the Winter Soldier, I was really not a fan of the show. I thought it had a ton of potential. Mainly, Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan were fantastic in the show. I liked how human it was. Not a lot of MCU shows really, movies and shows try to tell as human stories as this show did. So I appreciate on that level. Think the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, which I am a huge fan of. Think like that, where those are very human stories. This one definitely also got that aspect. I don't know if I get it right, but it definitely got it. Which I appreciate the effort. I feel like we don't see many superhero movies and shows take that effort. So I was excited to see that they took that effort. My main problem with the show, which I have several, but my probably the biggest disappointment from the show is John Walker, I believe was his name, a U.S. agent. I don't remember I don't remember the character's name. It was played by Kurt Russell's son. I don't remember the actor's name either. But I was very intrigued by this because this seemed like such an easy way. The guy who takes over for Captain America is going to be evil, and they have to stop him. And I love the idea that he's actually not evil. He's this war veteran. He's a great person. And they have to kind of balance the idea that they want the shield back and they want the mantle back, but they also, they feel bad to take it away from this guy because he's just a great person. And he sacrificed a lot for this country. And I loved that. I was so excited about it. That's what got me excited about the show. I was a huge fan of the first episode because I thought it was setting up a lot of really interesting stuff. And it kind of just threw it all away. Eventually became generically evil. They they kind of just gave up on a lot of the more interesting parts of the show. There's just to go through other problems I had with it. The action's really good. I'll give it credit for that. The action was directed well. I liked how a lot of it looked. The villain was pretty bad. I didn't understand. Like, I understood her motives, I guess, but she was pretty bad. And then, like, they killed her, and I was supposed to feel bad, even though she was kind of like a terrible person by the end. And then you had that big speech to all the political people, and I understand that you want to have this big political speech because the show was pretty political. But he didn't, if I remember correctly, he didn't really give them much of an alternative. Like, he just said, you have to do better, senators, and, like, that's good and all. Yeah, they should do better, but, like, give them an alternative. Like, I understand that he's a superhero. It's not really his job to be doing that. But when you're making it your mission to tell them to do something different, it helps if you can at least give them an alternative or just a way to do something different. I'm pretty sure in a direct quote is, you need to do better, Senator. Like, that's not actual help. So it just found it kind of ridiculous that this is what he's saying. Because I feel like he's a pretty smart character and he would have figured out that he has to do something different than that. So it was kind of disappointing that they had him just do that. The costume for the new Captain America was pretty bad. I did not like it. It looks a bit weird. I hope they change it up for Captain America 4, which should be happening, I've heard. So, the show it was disappointing. I'm excited for Captain America 4, I guess, but, like, the show's pretty disappointing overall. It started off much better than it ended, which I feel like was the way for pretty much all these shows. Which I think I'm going to talk about that at the end if Marvel has a problem with finales, because I have not been a fan of any of the finales so far, not a single one. So I think I'll talk about just how Marvel is handling TV shows, because they're obviously very new to that. But I'll touch more about that at the end. So now I'm going to go on to Loki, which was obviously the third one to be released, and I was a huge fan of Loki too. I talked about this when I was talking about Wandavision, but it's very unique, and I really value that. Like, it did not feel like normal MCU stuff. It was unique. It had a unique perspective. It introduced a new world, and it did that very effectively. Tom Hiddleston is so good as Loki. I could probably watch him play Loki for, like, 8 seasons of television if they wanted me to, because it's just so good. He's really good in this role. The problems I had with the pacing, definitely, like, some episodes felt like not enough happened, but then there were also times that it felt too fast-paced. Like, Loki's already the good Loki that we've known in, like, Infinity War. He's already back to that by, like, the end of the first episode. Like, he's not fully there, but realistically, after the Battle of New York, he would not be there so quickly, I think. So that was a little confusing. Mobius was great. Owen Wilson was really great. I hope he returns in season 2, which I think we have every reason to believe he will. I like the introduction of Kang. Jonathan Majors was really good in the role. I like all the energy he brought to it. But the problem I had with it, though, which I'll talk about the finales more later, but I like that they did not end the show with a big battle, because they did not need that. It's Loki. Like, this show was not leading up. It never felt like it was leading up to a big battle. Like, even before we officially knew the Timekeepers weren't really real, I never really thought we'd get this big CGI fight where Loki and Sylvie are fighting them. So I would never say I'm, like, disappointed that we didn't get that. But it just felt like not a lot happened. Like, it's just a conversation where it's not really exposition, but it's really just there to explain who Kang is for the movies. Like, it's not exposition. I'll give them credit. It's like enthralling to watch. Just, I don't understand, like, why they couldn't have just had more happen in this finale. Like, we see that the multiverse starts splitting up again, but maybe we could see a little bit of the effects of that just to make this finale feel like it was worthwhile, like something actually happened. So it kind of bothered me that they just went over that entire area a little bit, but that's not as big a deal as some of the other problems I have with some of the other shows. But the show's really good. The finale disappointed me, and the pacing was definitely off a little bit. But outside of that, it's really good. I really don't have as many problems about this as definitely like Falcon Winter Soldier. So next is What If. So this one I'm going to talk about a bunch more, because just finished, and I have not talked about that much on the channel. I do have a review it for episode 2, I think, because somebody asked us to do that, and we did one episode. It didn't do too well, so we never really got back to doing other ones. But if you would like us to maybe review, if there are shows you want us to do like weekly reviews of, tell us, maybe we'd consider it, because we all watch some TV, so maybe we've seen some of it, but like we didn't think it was worth it to do it for these shows, because by the time we'd actually get a review at it, just wouldn't be worth it. But that's not. So this show, it was okay. Like, it definitely wasn't what I was expecting. I was more expecting a total anthology of just random what if this happened, which the show was for a while. But then, eventually you start seeing little interconnectedness, and then obviously at the end it's all connected. So I'll start with what I liked first. First of all, the Tchalla episode, the one that I actually reviewed on the channel. It's my favorite one. I thought it was really good. It was everything I wanted the show to be and more. It showed this far-out story, which I never even thought of before. Like, nobody ever thought, what if Tchalla was abducted by Yondu and his crew? So, and I love that, like, nobody would ever thought of that. And most of these episodes, to be fair, it was not things I was ever thinking about. Like, I was never thinking, what if Hank Pym decided to call the Avengers? Like, so credit where credit is due. But I think this one utilized it the best. It showed, like, the perfect example of this is that Thanos became this good guy. I love that so much because it shows how different things could be if just with one tiny difference. I think that's everything the show could and should be. So I love that aspect. I love that episode. I love the Doctor Strange episode. That was really good. The zombies one was okay. I think the problem with it was the tone. They chose to make it very lighthearted, which I get with like Spider-Man, but with other characters, I felt like it needed to be more serious, and they just weren't willing to do that because it's Marvel. You gotta have jokes. You gotta be lighthearted, and I just wish that they would just be dark. Like the Doctor Strange episode was dark. I don't know why this one couldn't be too. Like these characters, like Bucky would not be cracking jokes when he just killed his friend. Like he just killed Captain America, and he's laughing. Like that felt pretty unrealistic. I was not a fan of Captain Carter. I thought that episode was just so limited. And in fairness, I think it might have just been establishing the rules just so then we could go into other things. But, like, we're getting more Captain Carter. Like, I think this was just a story they wanted to tell. And it was too similar to Captain America for me, and it didn't do anything for me. The Hank Pym was okay. The Hank Pym one was okay. The Party Thor was pretty bad. I thought it was too goofy. It was just too not serious. Like, I didn't understand what it was, and it wasn't even that interesting. I think that covered most of them. Like, the finale was pretty bad. I'll talk about that later, I guess. The one before the finale was the Party Thor episode, so I talked about that. So, I mean, it's just, like, the Watcher is interesting, and I kind of hope he returns, and something else. I mean, I know we're getting season 2, but, like, I just don't know what this show is. Like, what is season 2 going to be? Is every season just going to be, we see a bunch of new characters, and then at the end they come all together, or is, like, actually going to be something different? Because I don't want to just watch 8 seasons of a show where, like, this is all we're getting, and it never actually connects to anything, and it's just that. Like, I think I might have just preferred they just do a total anthology where just random what ifs, and then maybe you could have the finale be something a bit crazier than everything else, but, like, it's still just another episode, and it just happens to be that that's the finale. But, the show is what it is. It knows what it is most of the time, so I'll give them credit for that. But the animation was cool. I praise Marvel for really doing animation like this. But overall, I was pretty disappointed by What If, to be completely honest. So I think now I'm just going to go into my personal rankings, but at first I'll talk about the Twitter stuff. So I haven't checked it in a bit, but the poll should be open for a few more hours, so I think till tomorrow morning. So you still have time to vote, so just check out the DM Reviews Twitter account, the DM Reviews Twitter account in the Discord, on the link below in the description, which should be there. But if I remember correctly, What If got 41% of the votes for the best one. Loki got 41%. WandaVision got around 18%. And Falcon and Winter Soldier got no votes. So I voted for... Actually, I'll reveal that later. So What If, I think, is just because it was a recency. Like, most of the hashtags in the tweet were What If related. So maybe most of the people looking there were big What If fans. So they just saw the tweet and they just gave their vote for What If because that's when they liked. That's what they were looking at it. So that makes sense. Loki, I guess people really liked, which I liked it too. So that makes sense. Falcon and Winter Soldier, I'm surprised it didn't get more. Like, I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, I'll say that will be the bottom of my list, but I did not think it was that bad that it deserved no votes, so I was a bit surprised by that. Then WandaVision was probably the most surprising, because I really liked it, and I thought other people really liked it too, so I was surprised that it only got, like, 2 votes or so. So, so I talked about that, so now I think I'm just going to give my rankings, and I have one more thing I want to discuss. So, my rankings going from worst to best would be Falcon and Winter Soldier, just because it didn't do much for me. I thought it was kind of stale and boring, but that it was what it was. Then What If, because, I discussed that, it was what it was. Like, I'm excited for Season 2, but it could have been a lot more and better. Then Loki, then WandaVision was my favorite. So these two are incredibly close for me. It's really hard to decide. But ultimately what gives WandaVision the edge was, I just remember what it was like each week waiting for another episode. Like, it was just so exciting. Like, when the phrase "keep stand by," stand by or whatever it was, came on the screen after each episode, I was just so excited for next week's episode. I didn't want it to end. Where I definitely was excited for the next episode of Loki, I was content with waiting a week. Like, that didn't bother me. Where with WandaVision, it was like it was eating away at me that I had to wait so long to see what was going to happen. So that's what give WandaVision the edge. I understand that they're different shows trying to do different things, but at the end of the day, Loki, I think, could have had us on the edge of our seat a bit more. Where, like, it felt a bit more predictable than WandaVision, where I had just no idea. Like, I mean, I knew that Wanda was controlling the Hex, and, I had a pretty good idea what was happening, but not... Definitely, I knew much less about this than I did Loki, so that gives WandaVision the edge. But I completely understand having Loki first. I understand having any of them first, to be completely honest. It depends on personal preference and stuff like that. And obviously, it's all subjective. But, so yeah, that's my rankings. So I just want to talk quickly about the finales, because all of them disappointed me. Without fail. Loki probably my favorite finale, then outside of that, I don't even know what would be my next favorite. Like, Loki wasn't even that good either, and it makes me worried that Marvel just doesn't fully know yet how to do TV. Like, obviously there are the Netflix shows, which I am a huge fan of some of them. I've talked about Daredevil on the channel, I've talked about Punisher. I'm a huge fan of those two, and I like some of the other stuff they did. But like that stuff, I just don't think it's MCU. Like I'm sorry, I know there are people who really want it to be. Trust me, Daredevil, the TV show, is my favorite form of superhero anything. I love Daredevil so much, and I would love for him to be in the MCU. I hope Charlie Cox comes back. I've talked about this a lot. But at the end of the day, I just don't think it's in the MCU. They haven't acknowledged it. Kevin Feige doesn't acknowledge it. James Gunn has said that WandaVision is the first MCU show, which obviously he's not Kevin Feige, but I don't think he'd say that unless he knew it. So I don't understand how how the argument can be made that any of the others are actually in the MCU. So it's disappointing. I'm upset about it, but it is what it is. I hope that they retcon them into the MCU. I've talked about that a lot too in my other videos, but at the end of the day, right now, I just don't think they're MCU. So I'm considering that these to be Marvel's 4 only shows, like that these creative team has really had to deal with, and I think they've done it pretty well. Like, I mean, obviously TV shows are a different monster than movies. So, well, with Falcon and the Soldier, that would really was kind of just a movie spread across 6 episodes, I think it was. So that's a little different. I understand why they would, apply the same logic. But the other 3 are very different. They're not movies. None of those would have worked as movies, especially What If. So I'm surprised that Marvel definitely seemed to know how to handle it, but I think the main problem they've had is the finales. I don't think they know yet how to close out the series. They know how to set up the finale. Like, most of them were very exciting to get up to. Except for maybe What If. I wasn't too excited for that finale. But they don't seem to know yet how to pay it off. Like, I think they have a problem with some of their movies, too. A lot of them just end in big CGI battles, especially like Shang-Chi did that, Black Widow did that. We have reviews for both of those on the channel, and we discussed both of those movies had that problem with the finale, but like the ending of the movie. So maybe this is just a problem Marvel has in general, is just ending their content. Like, I mean, there are obviously some of them have great endings. Endgame has a great ending. Captain America: Winter Soldier has a great ending. A lot of them, I'm not going to list every Marvel movie that's a great ending. That would take a long time, because there are a lot of them that do. But I think it's possible that Marvel just has a problem with endings. They don't really know how to end things as well as they do how to do other things. Which it is what it is. They clearly do know how. Some of them, I'm sure, in the future will have great endings, including the shows. Hawkeye, I think, is up next. That one could have a great ending. Like, I'm not saying it can't happen. Just for right now, I think that's the biggest thing that Marvel needs to work on with its shows, I think, is just how they handle doing a finale. But outside of that, I think Marvel's done a pretty good job with shows. So make sure to comment what your rankings are, what you thought of What If, and if you think Marvel has a problem with endings, or if you think they have a problem with other things